the same team, as you can see from their circles. Appear to be missing some marshals. And we go into the first round of 3. 9 marshal calls at the start. Marshals know who to count points against. Remember, they count the hits taken rather than hits given out. Some lovely movement there from Gil. It's Korsak more the aggressive fighter, but takes one to the leg there. Great counter-attack from Gil, who is quite laborious in moving his sword round. However, it's good connections from both fighters there. It seems to be pretty evenly matched at that point. A long lunge from Korsak, who can't connect. Gil, a very rapid fighter, tries to sell a dummy, but Korsak is not having any of it. And that's a great connection there from Korsak, and I think that might cost Gildillian another connection again. And looks like 4 has gone up for both fighters. The Night Marshal seems to have called it, but both appear to have counted 4, so it does go down to the last point here. The last connection will win it. Very sharp there from Korsak. And that went to the wire there. That's round 2 now between Martin Gill and Pavel Korsak of White Company UK. Very sharp, and I think Korsak read that very well. He knew where that was coming from with the counter-attack. Great strike there from Korsak. Just waited until just the precise moment and does exactly the same thing again. But some sharper movement, a very good aggression shown from Gill. They're locked in. Again, good defense, but not all the connections are counting. And that's looks like it's taken to 4, though they don't seem. And that seems to be taken to 5 there. And now 2 very close rounds already, which take us to the 3rd round. Great. Initial strike from Korsak. Just connects it. The evasive action from Gill didn't quite cut it. You can see the experience and skill of both these fighters. Again, that strike will not count because he only caught the tabard, so it is not a clean connection. Sharp work there with the buckler of Gill. There's a slight adjustment. It needs to take advantage of his height. And that's a good strike to the head, however. And that appears and we go down to our last point with 4 points decided, and I think that's cut it. And that last round going to Martin with a victory of 2 rounds to 1. Pavel Korsak. An extremely close match there. All 3 rounds won at a deficit of 1 point, going to 5-4 each. The last round going to Martin Gill, but Korsak, having taken the first 2 rounds already, was dominating in it. In come for his second fight, for both their second fights, we have from the Netherlands Fabian Kuiper and the Frisian Michael Tegger. And Kuiper, the more precise fighter. However, Tega showing some great speed and aggression in his first fight, and this is going to be very difficult for the judges to see how many connections there are, but it looks like they've both gone for 4. There's another connection there, which takes it to 5. And Kuiper has dropped the sword. Rondell falling off. An early strike there from Tega. We got some good connections from both fighters. Tega perhaps with the edge here. And that's already up to 4. Both fighters close there, but it is called. Another very, very close round there. Arsenal bringing the fight to the center of the list, as this is a technique fight, not a physical fight, which will be required in Bohoots or pro fights. Thereby, it is better, of course, going away from the list. Nice connections here coming from the Dutch fighter. There's much more together now. And that is called. That's with a 3-round victory there for Michael Tega. We welcome back to the list from the Lions of Steel, Joanna Lammert, who faces Martin Gill of the UK, White Company. All 3 rounds are fought, even if one fighter has already won the first 2. It's extremely tense. We saw some amazing evasive action from Gill in the White Company circle, but the aggression of Lammert is something to be admired. Low with a fairly unpredictable shot there. Again, going with the strikes. Now some aggression from Gill as he strikes forward. Some good low shots there. However, there's a great counter attack, and that goes to 5. Again, see a lot more aggression now from the UK fighter. Some big connections coming through there, keeping that high buckler, although if I'm honest, I saw him a little bit more comfortable with the smaller buckler he had against his teammate Pavel Korzak in the last round. Some good support coming through. There's a nice connection. Round 3 now, and both fighters looking to show some of the aggression that they saw before. That's already seems to have gone to 5 there. And that is a 2-1 victory for Martin Gill of the UK. Again now from White Company, no strangers to this list. 2 pro fighters in the WFC League, champions of numerous medals at IMCF World Championships, Battle of the Nations, and great teammates, having fought together for such a long time. Currently the only two pro fighters in the UK, and you can see the lower stance of Corval there. Such an outstanding fencer, but you can see how both fighters have the extremely clean and sharp blocking maneuvers. Very confident stance there from Kurzak. It's strange to see he caught himself out with the right leg going a bit far. You don't want to give Corval any space at all. And good defensive blocks from both fighters there. They know each other extremely well, having training together every week. So I can see this one taking quite some time. The level of skill, I'll be able to read the way each other fights. You saw that great evasive move there, the leg dodge from Corval. But we look to be pretty close here. You can see the power coming through. And we go into the second round of Corval versus Kurzak from White Company in the UK. And outstanding lunges there, but great evasive moves. The counter-attacks of Corval are devastating, but Kurzak is reading them now quite effectively. Perhaps not a clean connection there, so that won't count. You can see great lunges there, and the way Corval leaps forward to continue the attack, to make a combination of shots, not all of them connecting, of course, with the outstanding defense from Kurzak. Another connection there. It seems the Night Marshal even speaking Polish to both of the fighters. That looks good. Again, now Kurzak with some early aggression, but he's still leaving that inner thigh open for Corval. Lovely evasive moves from Corval there, and outstanding try, although he did catch one there from Kurzak. That was a well-aimed shot. Great movement, because see the combination coming through. And the Night Marshal has called that he has seen 5, and the Marshals didn't call it. And with a 3-0 deficit there, the winner there is Lukas Corval. Night Marshal pointing out that when the fighting is at that level, it is even extremely difficult for the Marshals. So it's hard to follow, and then he needs to communicate with us. However, we now have Fabian Kuiper against Martin Gill, both showing some great aggression there, and it seems to have gone 2-4, but the Night Marshal, I believe, has called it. And even though the marshals did not count the 5, the night marshal did. Of course, the most experienced and at the highest level. So excellent aggression there from Martin Gill. And I'm sure we saw 7 clean shots there, but and still he that's for not letting up some connections, although the night marshal has called it there. And a victory there goes to Martin Gill of White Company. Straight back in the list after his fight against his teammate Lukas Koval, we have Pavel Kurzak of White Company. And he is facing off against the Lions of Steel fighter from the Netherlands, Jona Lammert. Those of you just joining us now, the way these sword and buckler bouts work is that it is the first fighter to concede 5 clear connecting strikes, concedes the round. There are 3 rounds, although it's not best of, which means if one fighter has already won the first 2 rounds, it still goes to the 3rd round regardless. And they have to be clear connections. Is it a very intense fight there? And it seems to be called at 5 strikes. The night marshal happy that went all the way, giving guidance to the lesser experienced marshal, excuse me. And round 2 now of Pavel Kurzak against Jona Lammert. Early strikes, but you can see how calm the stance is of Kurzak, who goes in for a combination, getting one of those connections. Great defensive move from Kurzak. However, he's faced up against some big strikes coming from Lammert. Nice low strike there from Kurzak, and it looks like the night marshal already called 5 strikes. Round 3 now of Kurzak and Lammert, UK versus Netherlands. That was a lovely strike there from the Dutch fighter who found that opening, but there's always a counter strike. Looks like we have been called 2-4 there, and 5 strikes have been called. The last final strike there from Kurzak. And that is a 3-0 victory for Pavel Kurzak of White Company. White Company featuring once again in the sword and buckler category. We have Martin Gill against Lukas Koval. 2 great teammates and friends fighting together for some time now. But of course, this makes it all the more difficult for each fighter because they can read how the other will move. Guidance always being offered by the Knight Marshal to the others. Of course, his decision is final. If he has seen 5 clear strikes, then it's 5 clear strikes and no arguments. You can see how far forward Korval leans, make it extremely difficult to get in there without exposing the helmet. However, Gil does have it fairly well covered. Something of a tense lunge there, but coming from the side, Korval. And Marshal's calling it very close there, not quite a clear connection. However, that looks good and takes it to 5. Move into the second round, and the early aggression shown from Gil. Both these fighters, of course, seen yesterday in the 5 versus 5 Pahut categories, which they won gold in. You can see that in this event, Korval prefers a lighter cover. Some great aggression there shown by both fighters. Big shots to the head there from Gil. Martin Gil giving away a shot there, I feel. But so these great lunges that Korval is making, always leaving his helmet covered by the buckler, but catching that the inside leg, and of course some superb evasive action from Korval there. However, he was heavily covered by Gil. And that is a 3-round victory for Lukas Korval. We will just have a moment's break now for 2 minutes, as one of the fighters from Friesland, Michael Teger, has a minor injury, which means he will not be able to participate in the next fight, unfortunately. Hoping it's nothing serious, but at the moment seems to be getting minor medical attention, purely for precautionary reasons rather than for anything serious. However, it is very unfortunate, as he was showing some great aggression and skill representing Friesland. A few more people starting to arrive now. So we've got a day of duels, the men's categories. At the moment we have the sword and buckler category, followed by the 1 versus 1 long sword, perhaps the most popular category, and then the sword and shield, favoured by many and has come up more and more in recent years, and is the favoured choice of armour for fighting for pro fights in WMFC, which has similar rules to HMB, but different categories in terms of there being more Bohut style, grappling, wrestling, etc. I won't. I'll bring that up later. I think it'll be good to get Korzak said that he'd give a demonstration of it, so we'll get a stump. Yeah. We'll just pick 4 people from the audience. They win a t-shirt. I think it'll be a bit of fun. How clean the cut is, yeah. But we have to use that one halberd of Rubens, one with a sort of blade on the top, rather than just standard poleaxe. Yeah, you go and pick one. And it looks like we're going straight into the next round there. Lukas Korval, who We're going back to, of course, he needed a very, very short break because, unfortunately, Michael Tecker had to pull out of the tournament. But they're back now, and he's being tested by Jonas Lammert of the Netherlands. Some sharp fighting there from Korval. The Night Marshal communicating to the point scorer so that the fighters cannot hear how the scoring is going. Thereby, nothing is given away in terms of energy. You can see the inimitable moves of Lukas Korval with that fantastic lunge. Some great moves for evasion. Third and final round of Lukas Korval against Jonas Lammert. But some great aggression shown. Korval not able to get away from the low strike there of Lammert, who does have a height advantage. But he seemed to left himself open there. Good strike to the head, the inner leg once again. And the Night Marshal has called it before the point marshals. And that is a 3-0 victory for Lukas Korval of White Company. We welcome back to the list from the Netherlands, Fabian Kuiper. Come on, let's hear it! Show some support! He faces Pavel Kurzak of the United Kingdom, White Company. And both fight heavy strikers. And it looks like Kurzak has gone for those head strikes, although he was pushed back by Kuiper. A very close fight, that. And both fighters having left themselves exposed there. It's rare to get such a high-scoring individual match. And once again, I feel the Dutch fighter, there's some great defense and coming through looking for that exposed area. But those shots were blocked and will not count. Looks like there's another strike there going to the head of Kuiper. Well, another close round there. I think both fighters have found exposed areas. You can see the early charge there. Kurzak only able to escape, but he's taken one to the leg there, and he's leaving quite an area exposed, which he needs to cover well. But some nice counters there. It's a great headshot that's come through. Looks to be very close, this. And that is a 3-0 victory for Pavel Kurzak. However, extremely close there. The rounds 5-4, 5-3, 5-4. And just another moment as there is a... Well, Fabian Kuiper would have been granted a 2-minute break, but he chooses to carry on. And he is going against the extremely rapid-firing Lukas Korval. Some great shots coming through from the Dutch fighter. And that is it called by the Night Marshal. And the third and final round. Yeah. Great aggression coming now from the Dutch fighter. And that is a 3-0 victory for Lucas Koval of the United Kingdom. The last fight, of course, is a bye. Unfortunately, the fighter not able to continue due to a very minor injury. So we will have a 15-minute break, just a 15-minute break, and then we'll move straight into the longsword category. So 15 minutes, I so strongly suggest you get some stoopwaffles because they are outstanding. In fact, good news. Now, yesterday, the man selling these delicious stoopwaffles told me he was so busy he did not have a chance to go and smoke a cigarette. So, we can help him with his smoking problem if we continue to buy stoopwaffles. So go and get one. Join us back in 15 minutes. Welcome back to day 2 of keningstriid. We have all the men's 1 versus 1 duels, and we're just waiting for the marshals to take to the list. The Knight Marshal on his way back, and we go straight into the second category of the day, having finished the sword and buckler, looking at the longsword category. Unfortunately, we've had one fighter who had to drop out due to illness. 2 in fact, but one has been replaced by a fighter who's already taken part in the sword and buckler category. These will be slightly different from the regulations of the sword and buckler, which depended on hits. This instead is 1 round of 90 seconds, so a minute and a half. It might seem like a very short time, but of course, when you're under that armor, not only do you have the weight of the armor, which can provide difficulties, and in fact the weight is not a problem because it's very, very well distributed. For example, you can jump around, you can move, you can dance if you really want to. You can break dance, as we've seen some of the fighters in Russia do. But the difficulty that lies in the longsword category is the fact that in the helmets, visibility is limited, but so too is breathing. A lot of the helmets used are very, very covered, and therefore, quite simply, air does not pass through, meaning that fighters can lose their breath very, very quickly. So those 90 seconds start to feel like a lifetime. Sometimes in tournaments that I have in the Mediterranean can get extremely hot. Tournaments in Italy, tournaments in Spain that I have in August, tournaments even in September. It can be a great strain on the strength and energy of the fighter and really, really drain them. But these fighters are at the top of their physical fitness, so we're looking for some fantastic action for them today. And it looks as though the first 2 fighters are ready to enter the list. We have the marshals just organizing who will be counting points for which fighter. The Knight Marshal now giving advice to the lower marshals. Knight Marshal coming all the way from Poland, discussing details with the younger Danish marshal. On the other side, we have a marshal very experienced who's come all the way from the UK. And to his side, we have a Slovenian marshal who's come here, who is joined by a local guy. And the fighters take to the list now. We're looking at from the Netherlands, Jona Lammert for the Lions of Steel, who faces off against Boris Masnichak of White Company, United Kingdom. Once again, only clean shots will score. If the sword, the blade, is not what strikes, it will not count. So if it hits side on, it will not count as a clean hit. If there is a mild deflection, it will not count. And you can see very aggressive shots there from Masnichak. A nice bit of movement there from Lammert, who is an experienced fighter himself. We saw him earlier in the sword and buckler, making a very good impression. A lot of aggression coming through and very, very carefully placed footwork. And getting aggressive now, and fortunately for the Dutch fighter, left a little exposed there on the leg. And the captain of the White Company fighter, Masnichak, calling for more hits. Not seeing the aggression from his fighter, however, he is finding vulnerable areas. A tense moment now as some tiredness will be setting in, and that is 10 seconds left for one big push from both fighters there. Great shots that come from Masnichak. Big shots coming in from both fighters there, with great aggression coming through. And the Knight Marshal has called time. The marshals will now agree on how many points, how many clean points they scored, and address them to the Knight Marshal, who will call it to the point scorer. So with a 20 points to 13, the victory goes to Masachak of White Company, United Kingdom. We now welcome to the list, all the way from Italy, fought yesterday in the Behoort categories as a mercenary for Aschia of the Netherlands, Giulio Castruccio, who will be eager to get part of his face back, which he lost in the list fighting yesterday. And he has 2 stitches to show for it. He is against Daniel Winter of the United Kingdom. Daniel, an experienced fighter here. Giulio switching teams a while ago, and you can actually see, having once been on the same team as him in Italy, in Jensen Omilabilis, you can see the style, which is reminiscent of our old captain. We have both moved on since then. A very, very tense start. You can see a lunge from Castruccio, but he's not getting the connection, just not quite fast enough. And that connection will not count for Winter. And now finally they get stuck in some great shots from both fighters there. Clean headshots coming from Castruccio. Winter now wanting to move forward, but he's caught the gauntlet. Again, still quite tense. They both need to start showing some aggression, but the evasive moves of Castruccio are sufficient for the moment. So Winter will need to start showing a bit of that aggression. Castruccio making use of the list. Some great shots there coming down from Winter. A good counter-attack coming from Castruccio. With support coming there from the UK teams. And that is called. So, perhaps a low-scoring match there, but extremely technical, very cautious. Our Marshall once again taking points for each fighter, which will be relayed to the point scorer. And it goes to a draw. Therefore, there will be a further 30 seconds. Some great shots there coming. Great aggression showing from Winter there. And Castruccio's going to have to show a little bit more attacking to get these points. It seems now that Daniel Winter has really come out of his shell and started grinding down on Castruccio. Some big shots coming through from both fighters. Last connection, they're not quite meeting. And that is time called. So much better fight there. Lots of aggression from both swordsmen. And that is a victory there for Daniel Winter of the United Kingdom. There was a draw after the first 90 seconds. We now welcome to the list from the UK, but from different teams, Andrew Campbell, who faces off against Lucas Korval of White Company. So the UK Federation and White Company do train together, so they know fighting styles. Korval perhaps the more experienced fighter, but nevertheless, Campbell will be well aware of that and gets an early connection in. You can see how fast the skills are, and a nice move there from Campbell, just moving for the exposed side of Kovalasi, was striking towards the head. It's difficult to get the clean headshots coming through. Some loose connection there from both fighters. But you can see when they do connect, they always go for combinations. Both fighters quite evenly matched here. And always that first connection is extremely important. You can see how they pull back instead of countering. If the first connection doesn't make it, then they will pull back. But of course, if it does, they will go for a combination, as you can see. Both fighters keeping it relatively compact in terms of space that they're using for the duel. The list, of course, yesterday taking some quite heavy punishment from the 5 versus 5. As 10 seconds called in this fight, so the final 10 seconds coming through. We might get a final attack there, which sends the marshal out of the way, and that's time called. No, that's a 25-9 victory for Lucas Koval of White Company, United Kingdom. Once again, we stay. Now welcome to the list from UK Fed, Barney Barnes, who faces David Disek of White Company. So once again, it's UK Federation versus White Company. Both fighters taking part in the 5 versus 5 Puhurts yesterday. And it is absolutely not typical to see a fairly cautious start to the 1 versus 1 longsword. Of course, they do have the advantage of the length of this. However, just the tip of the sword is generally not going to have a full impact. Therefore, they do need to be striking with the middle of the sword. Of course, if they strike too low, then it puts them at a disadvantage. Some great aggression being shown from both fighters there. Nice move out of the way from Barney. Disek, however, reading the fight. And you can see the difference in stature. Disek, of course, the taller fighter. However, his opponent is a big man. And it's a great shot to the head. Some very, very nice strikes there coming from Disek. But there is an exposed area that Barney is taking advantage of. Again, light taps like that will not count. That's 10 seconds called. So the final 10 seconds to see a rush of headshots coming there from Disek. I think that was just the touch. That's time called. Oh, once again, very, very evenly matched fighters. But this is the level that we are at now. Fighters have traveled a long way to come here to keningstriid 2017. And already we're making plans to invite more countries for 2018, which will take place on the 17th, 18th and 19th of August 2018. So far, after the first day of fighting, many teams happy and communications going across to invite other teams. We're looking forward to seeing more of the mercenaries who took part. Hopefully next year they will be bringing some of the fighters with them. Teams from France and Italy. Okay,
And that is a 18-9 victory for David Disek of White Company. Now we will just have a break for a couple of minutes as the UK Federation fighter is fighting